Thanks for being here. Thanks for Yext for having me, and thanks to anybody who's back home in the UK or anywhere else for that matter watching this on live streaming. So yeah, I'm going to, hopefully the slides will come up there in a second, I'm going to talk about delivering customer-centric transformation in a disrupted customer-led world. First of all, I hope you don't mind. I mean, I've got about half an hour, so I'm going to spend about 25 minutes talking about me. I'm assuming you're okay with that, right? 5 minutes of core content, because I've got quite a lot to talk about. So I got involved in digital and e-commerce about 20 years ago. That was my flashy CLK Mercedes-Benz with the registration plate W66 for web, WWW for World Wide Web. So I got a wee bit ahead of myself, made a bit of money, and then lost it when the dot-com was crashing and burning. However, thankfully, I'm old enough and ugly enough now to have learned from my lessons over the years and the scars, which has helped me build a successful business called Practicology with around 85 people in London, Dubai, Guangzhou and Shanghai in China, and also in Hong Kong, and Sydney and Melbourne in Australia. And then about 4 weeks ago, we were acquired by an American business called iServe, based out of Utah, one of the top 5 or 6 Amazon resellers in the world. So now Practicology has some very relevant service lines, which I'll talk about just in a second. A little bit more about me. I've spent 35 years in retail or servicing retail. I've had the privilege of heading up multi-channel operations for the brands that you see on the screen, Intersport, Harrods, Burberry, Ted Baker, amongst others. I'm the chairman and founder of Practicology. I also have the privilege of being on the advisory board of Yext in the UK, so I'm quite close to what the great things that Yext is doing for our customers and helping their customers find them more effectively on all forms of online. I'm also a non-executive director of a business called White Stuff. The challenge with TLAs, or 3-letter acronyms, as I'm sure you'll all agree, is that sometimes nobody knows what they mean. And I was presenting in Glasgow not that long ago, and I was getting some really funny looks when I brought up the term NED, because some of you probably don't know this, but in Glasgow, that's what a NED looks like. Good. So I'm pleased that the humor's working at this late stage in the day. A little bit about Practicology, not too much, but we all come from the retail sector, so we're born in retail. We've run retail operations for a whole host of great brands. We deliver consulting and advisory services, which includes helping American brands get into other markets. And of course, now with our partnership with and being part of the iServe group, we can also now run marketplaces for clients as well. Here is the ubiquitous client slide, and just some of the brands that we're very privileged to work with in different markets around the world. So that's enough about us. I'm sure you would agree there have been some pretty big changes going on in retail since the 1980s and the 1990s. One of the biggest changes, I'm sure you'll agree, is haircuts. And here's an example of a haircut that I'd rather forget. Excuse me. So that's me back in the good old days of new romanticism, the new romantic era, where I was a full-blown new romantic, baggy bowie trousers, frilly shirts, and all the rest of it, and dodgy haircuts. The other fundamental thing that's changed is that back then, retailers held the balance of power. Why? Because consumers had limited choice. They had high street stores, they could maybe go in their car or the train and go to a shopping mall somewhere, but the reality is they didn't have a lot of choice because, again, this was pre the internet. We'll talk a bit more about that later. It was all about location, location, location. So well done to the guy or the girl who owned the liquor store for opening up next to the divorce lawyer and the bankruptcy clerk. So that's pretty good placement from my perspective. Now we live in a world of anything, anytime, anywhere. It's not about location, location, location. And of course, much of that is driven by the likes of Amazon. And if you live in a major conurbation like London, you can have your order delivered to your house or to your place of work within an hour. Incredible. So you can click online, you can buy from just about anything, and you can have it delivered in an hour. And that's the level of convenience that the likes of Amazon have delivered. So all this disruption is really having a big impact on consumer-facing businesses. So whether you're a retailer, whether you run restaurants, whether you run banks, whether you're a car dealer in the automotive sector, you're all being disrupted. And I would argue you, unfortunately, are no longer really in control, and actually your customers are, which is why being a customer-centric business is what you have to be in everything that you do, and that's the focus for my presentation today. So just to give you an example of some of the disruption that's going on. So if you think about the traditional booking a taxi experience, what was wrong with that? Well, I'll tell you what was wrong with it. First of all, you weren't in control. You might be going to a meeting, you might be going on a date, you might be going to meet your partner, whatever it was. You wanted to know when you were going to get there. And the problem is, historically, when you phoned up and booked a taxi, you didn't know how long it was going to take to get there. So you didn't know if you were going to be late or not. Once you got in the cab, you didn't know how long it was going to take to get from your destination to where you were going. You didn't know how much it was going to cost. And I do have an unhealthy cynicism, sorry, about taxi drivers going in unfathomably long routes just so that they can bump the price up, right? That's the Scotsman in me for you. So these are just some of the challenges, right, that you had in ordering a taxi. Along came Uber. So what was that all about? Well, that was about, let's empower customers. Let's make it easier for customers because they know when the taxi is going to get there. They know how long it's going to take to get to the destination. You know how long the taxi is going to cost. It puts you as the customer 100% in control. That is what it's all about. What about public transport? Well, public transport stops everywhere, doesn't it? It doesn't go from point A to point B. You kind of got to pass through everywhere else in between. That's not always that convenient. It's a little bit smelly, yeah, on the New York Metro, on buses. It's not the best, is it? Sometimes in the cabs, the yellow cabs in New York. And there's no Wi-Fi, right? Generally, if they tell you there's Wi-Fi, it normally doesn't work very well. So here's an example of a company in New Jersey called Our Bus. And have a look at the value proposition up there. Custom pickup and drop-offs, location steps away, direct point-to-point service, save up to 50% of your time and money. And the last one's my favorite. Suggest a new route. And if you can get 80-odd people in your community to say, I would like to travel on that route, they will give you free transport for life. Now, how many bus companies do you know in New York or Chicago or London or wherever you've come from to be here that would offer that? Traditional bus companies, none of them. So that's really clever. And then if you look at the experience, why choose our bus? Reclining seats, complimentary Wi-Fi, individual charging ports, and sanitized restrooms. They've gone through the traditional public transport experience on a bus and thought about, if we had a blank bit of paper, what would customers really want? Yeah, it's not rocket science. That's what they've done, and they're doing it extremely well. What's wrong with banks? Now, I could probably spend half an hour talking about what's wrong with banks, but I'll just give you a few thoughts. There's my local Royal Bank of Scotland in Enfield in North London, near where I live. Well, the first thing I'd say that's wrong is the opening hours. They're open from 9:15 in the morning till 4:45. Do any of you work those hours? I'm pretty sure you don't. I'm pretty sure most of you start before 8 o'clock probably, or certainly before 9 o'clock, and you probably don't finish till 6 or 7. And they're not open at weekends. So Royal Bank of Scotland's hours are not there to suit you or me as customers. They're there to suit them. They're so traditional in terms of how banks have always operated. What else is wrong? Well, this. Why do banks chain cheap, big biros to the counter? What does that say? What does that say about how they feel about you as customers? You're going to steal their cheap plastic pens. So you can turn that on its head. And along came this brand here, Metro Bank in the UK. Not only is it pet friendly, the founder obviously likes his dogs. They create and give away 1 million pens a year, right, to customers. So they probably spend about £100,000 creating these branded pens. But guess what? 1 million of their pens get out into the environment. People take them, they use them at work, they use them at home, they give them to other people. So rather than them seeing that as an issue, they see it as an opportunity from a marketing perspective. Very different mindset. And they're open 6 days a week. They're open on Saturdays, they're open early, and they're open late to suit the needs of customers. Monzo Bank is a bank that's really been set up for, I think, a younger consumer. Puts younger consumers in complete control over how much they spend. And I'm sure my wife would be delighted if I switched to that account so that she could maybe track how much I spend on a monthly basis more effectively than we do at the moment. Everyone's talking about retail Armageddon. Yeah, it's the end of the high street. It's the death of the high street. It's the death of retail as we know it. Well, I absolutely do not believe that to be the case. But as Charles Darwin said, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It's the one most adaptive and responsive to change. I think I fit that box. I'm certainly not the most intelligent. I'm probably not the strongest, but I'm pretty adaptive, and I think I've adapted as the world has evolved, and I think that's what retailers need to do. And if you look at someone like Walmart, you know, a number of years ago, I would have said Walmart, you know, they're an old traditional retail model. You know, they open up big boxes, and every time they open up a big shed, they know how much they're going to get back from that business. They know what the payback period is going to be and everything. But, you know, they didn't rest on their laurels. They recognized, I think, the impact that digital and e-commerce was going to have in their business, the threat that it presented, but also the opportunity. So they've been acquiring a whole bunch of businesses. Jet.com, Flipkart in India most recently, partner with JD in China. But that's their way of saying, do you know what? We're a traditional multi-channel business. One of the best ways of us really embracing digital and getting, you know, closer to customers through digital e-commerce is by acquiring businesses that already have capabilities in that space. This next slide is about where the expected growth is going to come from across channels. And the one I want you to focus on, this is in the UK. The second column is about click and collect. This data predicts that in the next 3 or 4 years, click and collect is going to grow by 70% from where it is in the UK at the moment. And there are some department stores in the UK who already have 50% of online orders are clicked and collected. So what that means to me is there's a pretty big role for the stores for quite some time to come. And whilst digital and e-commerce is going to continue to grow, and I do believe it will get to 50-50 in probably all product categories within the next 5, 6 years, 7 years, the reality is that today, 80% of sales are still made in a physical environment. So the high street is definitely not dead. It's about how you join all the channels together. Right, it's secret time. Who would like to hear a secret? Quite a few of you. Fantastic. Okay. There you go. Now, I know you're going to be falling off your chairs right now in horror at the fact that your brand is not the most important thing in your customer's life, but I'm sorry to tell you that is the case. And the thing that is the most important is their convenience. And that's the thing that you really have to be thinking about, how you deliver and execute against that. Because Amazon, Alibaba, Airbnb, Tesla, you know, Uber, all the disruptors, they have found ways of creating better experiences, how to leverage technology to deliver a better customer experience. But they never start with the technology, they always start with the customer. In fact, Amazon have a role in their business. They have a job title called a bar raiser. And that person's job is to go across all the projects in the business and to challenge them and say, are we really doing enough for customers? Could we be pushing this harder, faster, and delivering more value for our core and most important customers? So unfortunately, I do believe that customer-facing brands have to become customer-obsessed, or they will die. Because if they don't, then all the other disruptors that I've already mentioned have already found better ways of engaging, providing convenience, and delivering better experiences. This is some data from about 27, 28 of our own clients, anonymized data, over the last 5 or 6 years. And the reason why I want to show you this slide, it's about customer retention and customer churn. Year after year after year, retailers are retaining fewer and fewer customers. It's becoming harder to get those existing customers to come back. Now, I believe that's mainly because they're not focused enough on it as they should be. And so I created something in my book, not for the book, because I actually wrote this a couple of years ago, called the customer mix. On the left-hand side is the traditional marketing mix. Who studied the marketing mix at university or school in the US? Quite a few of you, I'd imagine, and some back in the UK as well, and other markets. So product, price, place, promotion. What I sell, how much I sell it for, where I sell it, and how I market and promote what I'm selling to customers. Then we added people, people, process, and physical evidence. The people element does not relate to customers. It relates to people within your business. So the big problem for me is nowhere in that marketing mix do we talk about customers. And that's because that was created in 1960. So how relevant really is that for today's multi-channel age where customers are shopping across all the different touch points? I would argue not very. The customer mix. Who are the most important customers? Why do they want to buy? What do they want to buy? Where do they want to buy it? When do they want their order fulfilled? And what's next? Because that's the other thing that doesn't exist in the marketing mix. What's next? If you buy from me, what do you get back? What am I going to do as a retailer to give you more reasons to come back to me? And that doesn't necessarily need to be about points. There's lots of ways to engage customers, which I'll talk about in a minute. According to the Harvard Business Review, a 5% increase in customer retention leads to a 25 to 95% increase in profit. So there you go. You make more money, and it's more cost-effective by retaining customers than it is acquiring new ones. I guarantee you, if I asked you to be honest with me and tell me how many of you have a role in your business called Head of Customer Retention, I bet you anything you want that a couple of hundred people that are here, there'll be less than 1% of you probably have that job title in your business. And yet probably half of you have a Head of Customer Acquisition. So we're all focused on bringing people in the door, but we're not focused enough on making sure that they come back. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book, called 100 Practical Ways to Improve Customer Experience. So a practical book written by a practical guy who built a business called Practicology. There's a clue in the name there and the branding somewhere. So that seems to be doing quite well. If you're interested, you can get it on Amazon and all good book sources. I'm going to give you a few tips of what I think you need to do to put the customer first. So first of all, I think you need to know who your core customers are. I never cease to be amazed when I talk to clients about data and what their insight is about customers, that it's quite limited. We've got lots of data, but we've got very limited insight. We don't really know, I think, what's going on with our most important customers, nor who they are. And yet most businesses, take John Lewis, a big department store in the UK, many of you will know, a bit like, let's say, a Bloomingdale's or a Macy's. These guys have 73% of their sales driven by 23% of their customers. So a relatively small percentage of customers drive almost 3/4 of their sales. You need to know who those customer groups are. Like I say, we've got data coming out of our ears, but what I think we really need is insight. And a business that does that really well is a brand in the UK called Dreams. So they are a bed retailer. They do mattresses, bedding, and beds. And they capture 3,500 pieces of data every single week about how customers feel about the online experience, the in-store experience, the multi-channel or omni-channel experience, and what customers think of product. And Mike Logue, who's the CEO of that business, ensures that every single meeting starts with customer insight. Otherwise, all we're doing is wallowing around in a world of subjectivity. If we actually know what customers want and what they think of us, why wouldn't we start there? More importantly, he's added, that was a business that was going bust 4 years ago. It was going bankrupt. It was going Chapter 11. And he's added £50 million, or let's say $65 million, to the bottom line, and about $130 million, about £100 million to the top line in 4 years by turning that business into a customer-centric business. Let's talk about key performance indicators. Like you, I've been in thousands of trading meetings on a Monday morning or a Monday afternoon. I've been hit over the head with a blunt instrument by my boss because I had more KPIs than you could shake a stick at, but I had no insight. So here are the sorts of things that we traditionally measure. We measure things like conversion rates, average order values, units per transaction, traffic, footfall, dwell time, abandonment rates, returns rates, yada, yada. The problem with all of those is that they are the inputs, they're not the outputs. Oh, sorry, those are the outputs, not the inputs. I'll get that the right way around. Those are the things that tell you actually what's going, how you're performing from a commercial and an operating perspective, but they don't tell you why you're performing like that. And I believe that to really understand why you're performing that way, you need to measure the customer-facing inputs. So things like customer satisfaction, net promoter scores, contact center feedback. What are people saying about us on social media? Are they engaging with us? What are they saying with ratings and reviews on the website? What are our retention levels? And what's our customer lifetime value? Those are the inputs. If you can get your head around that, if you can get into the data and understand what those KPIs are telling you, you will have all the ammunition you need to drive the right outcome with all of the more commercial and operating key performance indicators. Don't think about channels. Please don't ever think about channels. Think about customer experience. We spend our life talking about channels. Do any of our customers see channels or talk or think in that language? Of course they don't. I had the privilege 3 years ago of sharing a stage at the World Retail Congress in Rome with Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the man who invented the World Wide Web. So that was a bit of a moment for me. And that's me, good-looking guy there on the left-hand side as you look at it. Babita Sharma from the BBC, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, and a Frenchman whose name I cannot remember nor could I pronounce when I knew it. But he is the co-founder of Von Privé, one of the biggest private sales sites in the world. And this was the first question. It was a bit unnerving, because I'm thinking, why are they all facing me? And the Babita Sharma turned to me and said, so Martin, you do a lot of work in the web. What's next for the web, and what does it mean for retailers? And I promise you, I had a 3-second rabbit deer in the headlight moment where I was like, I thought, why is she asking me when she's got the man who invented the World Wide Web sitting next to her? Why didn't she ask Sir Tim Berners-Lee about that? So that was a bit of a weird one. Anyway, I said it's not about the web because we live in a multi-channel world. The problem with channels is we've structured our business around channels and not around the customer. So I bet you, almost all of you will work in a business today that still has a siloed digital or e-commerce team. Very few of you will have integrated all of those functions. If you don't have an integrated organizational structure, how can you expect to deliver the right experience to customers or make sure customers get to buy the right product in the right channel at the right time or get to see the right marketing message when they want to see it that's personalized for their needs? Customer centricity has to be, in my opinion, bottom up and top down. So when I say bottom up, anyone new that comes into the business, it should be the first thing they're told about. It should be a core part of their induction program, of their training, of their induction into the business. What does it mean for our business to be truly customer-centric? And of course, it has to come from the board. Because if the board don't buy into this stuff, then there's no hope for anyone. And here's a great little model from a business in the UK called Timpson. These guys repair shoes. They put new soles on shoes. They cut your keys. They do all those little tasks that you find hard to do in most other environments. That's how they make their money. Look at this model. Management on the bottom, followed by all other employees, followed by employees who work and actually touch the customer, followed by customers at the very top. I think that if you looked at your business, honestly, most of you, in your strategy decks, it'd probably be the other way around. Management would be at the top. The customers might be a big segment, but they'd be way down the bottom somewhere. Staff empowerment drives customer centricity. Another example from Timpson's. This is John Timpson, who used to run the business. It's a family business going back over 100 years now. The staff in this shop have my total authority to do whatever they can to give you as customers amazing service. What else do you need to know? It's on the door. You walk through the door, you know that you're walking into an environment that understands how important it is to put your needs ahead of the needs of the business. Peter Drucker, a great strategist, wrote this line, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And I think that culture is one of the most ignored elements and probably one of the most important when it comes to creating a truly customer-centric business. And I just want to show you a short example or talk about a business called AO.com. So AO used to be called Appliances Online. That's what they sell. They sell fridge freezers, tumble dryers, washing machines, televisions, household appliances, not the sexiest of product categories, right? We'll talk about that in a minute. No offense to anybody else that sells those. They say that you cannot pay people to care, that you really have to find people who care about customers and want to deliver the right level of service. And they actually try to recruit people who are both humble and ambitious. We do that in Practicology. You know, at the end of the day, what's the point in having people who are ambitious, but who have no humility, have no integrity? These are really important attributes when it comes to delivering the right type of service for customers. What these guys are also very focused on is what I would call return on involvement. Now, sorry for any of the CFOs in the room, those of you that own finance, you'll probably be horrified to hear me say that I actually think in this day and age, return on involvement is more important than return on investment. Because return on involvement drives and delivers return on investment. A pure focus on return on investment does not. A focus on customers and engagement and involvement drives that. So this business that I was telling you that isn't in the most sexy product categories, they've got over 1.8 million people liking them on Facebook. They've got 40% social media engagement every single month. 40%. Do the math. What is that? 700,000 people on Facebook engaging with them literally day in, day out. Unbelievable. And they sell washing machines, fridge freezers, and tumble dryers. This is why. Have a look at this.
B to the E to the K to the O, B go, you know that the place to go. What's it? B to the E to the K to the O, B go, you know that the place to go. If you want a long wash, get Bico. If you want a quick wash, get Bico. If you want a rinse, get Bico. If you want an extra rinse, washing machine. My whites are whiter than white, my pants are cleaner than clean. A 5-kilogram drum and a spin of 1,000. Socks, tops, dressy jeans, and still got room for my trousers. If you want a long wash, get Vico. If you want a quick wash, get Vico. If you want a rinse, get Vico. If you want an extra rinse, get Vico. For a washing machine, you know it's pretty slim. Easy peasy to maneuver, lemon squeezy to plug in. Very simple to use, man, it won't tax your brain. And has an energy efficiency rating of A. Oh, A, oh, A, Vico. A, oh, A. B to the E to the K to the O, Vico. You know that a place to go. I said B to the E to the K to the O, Vico. You know that a place to go.
Now, I know some of you really wanted to get up and dance to that. So if you're going to the Yext party tonight, you might have an opportunity to do that. You know, that's great engagement. And that was actually a customer video for a competition. So they've got that type of engagement where customers are posting umpteen videos on YouTube. They get over 150,000 views of videos on YouTube every week. Many of them actually created by customers and not by the brand. This is my local barber shop in Cockfosters in North London. This is where I get my hair cut. 230,000 people following them on Instagram. And there are 5 barbers, 5 people who cut hair, yet 230,000 people follow them on Instagram. So it doesn't matter what business you're in, you can create great engagement that can be commercialized quite effectively if you leverage social media in the right way, and they're a great example of doing that. I think our stores need to become more experiential. So whilst I don't think the high street is dying, I think we need to give customers more reason to go to a physical environment. Because if we didn't have a good experience when we went there, why would we bother going there? Why wouldn't we just buy online if it's a commodity at the end of the day? Brands like Lululemon opening up the floor of the store and having yoga sessions on a Wednesday at 7:10. You know, that's their category. That's the products that they sell. That's the market they cater for. Why not use their physical environment to create experiences like that and actually engage customers in the products that they're trying to sell? The other thing that has to happen is we have to remove friction, because there are still key points in the customer journey in store that are far too painful. One of them is you've spent time going around looking to buy maybe a suit, a dress, maybe buy some electrical products, whatever it is, and you get to the checkout and there's 25 people in front of you, and you think, I just can't be bothered with this because I don't have the time. So here's an example of how that's being disrupted.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So, how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
So they call that just walk out technology. I come from Glasgow. We don't bother with the technology. We just pick it up and go. We joke there. Some of you got it, some of you didn't. We need to get personal. You know, we talked about personalization for 20 years. And I know a lot of you buy through brick and mortar, you buy online, you buy through Amazon, wherever that happens to be, the brand's own website. And I don't think we get very good personalized experiences at the moment. So just one example, or a couple of examples I saw when I was on holiday in Florida not that long ago. Diesel, if you look on the left-hand side, If you join and become a member of their member program, unlock personalized gifts and experiences, you get to see new collections first. That's important if you're into fashion. Discover exclusive sale previews and access to member-only competitions. So lots of reasons and lots of added value for you as an existing customer. So remember when I was talking about the customer mix, about what's next? That's about what's next, because that's right at the point of sale. So when you're about to pay, as a customer, you know what the value is if you buy from them and you join the membership program. On the right-hand side, Madewell, want your jeans hemmed on us? Join our loyalty program. You get free hemming of your jeans, free monogramming, free shipping, and more. So again, lots of reasons why they create that added value to you and give you reasons to come back. Now you'll see lots of personalization stations propping up now in luxury brands. This is actually Erie, who are American Eagle's sort of younger brand here in the States. So they have a personalization station in most of their stores where you can get your own name embroidered onto something. I think that retailers need to move beyond just selling stuff, transacting, to becoming service providers. A couple of examples. Muscle Food. When you get to the checkout, rather than just buying the one product, they actually encourage you to say, do you want that every week? Do you want it every 2 weeks? Do you want it every 3 weeks? Or do you want it every 4 weeks? And of course, that's great because it locks you in as a customer. But it's a great customer experience because you don't have to worry about having to replenish every few weeks. Net-a-Porter in the UK, an international luxury e-tailer. Try before you buy. This is the next big trend that's taking place in the UK at the moment, which I'm pretty sure we will see in the US very, very soon. And that is where they will take products to their high-end customers' homes and allow them to try them on. They can keep the products they want, they can pay for them, and whatever items they don't want, then the sales colleague just takes that back to the business. There are new fulfillment options that are being developed at the moment that will be able to offer this across really the high street. So I think you'll see that coming sometime soon. I'm pretty passionate about social responsibility. This is just another example from Madewell. Your old jeans can be made into housing insulation. And of course, you'll know that the likes of Tom's have buy one pair of Tom's, and they'll give a pair to someone else. Warby Parker do the same thing with glasses. So I would drop the word corporate, because I think when you think about corporate social responsibility, it becomes a tick box exercise. Whereas when you think about being socially responsible, it becomes something with a purpose that you really think about what can you do for your local community. Sometimes you can go a little bit too far. So I've been talking about all this great stuff about data, about customer, and putting the customer at the heart of all you do. And I'm going to finish on a really nice little video that shows you that sometimes you might just go a little bit too far when you create the experience that you think is relevant for customers but might not be. So have a look at this.
Everybody on the floor! This is a robbery!
Don't move!
Get down! Now.
Don't move!
Get down and stay down!
You move! The money! Money! Open the vault!
Mr. Johnson? Eric Johnson?
How does she know your name?
I don't know.
Your mobile app pinged us when you walked in. Looks like you were on our website and thinking about buying a house.
You moving out, man?
I need my space.
You may think you can't afford a new home, but we have some amazing new rates. I could text them to you.
Oh, those are fantastic.
And Mr. Davis?
Yeah, it's me.
Did you click on one of our emails about consolidating your student loans?
Maybe.
Oh, well, we can help you with that too.
Hey, what are you doing? This is a robbery, remember? We gotta go! Come on!
Can I lock those rates in on the app?
Well, of course you can, sugar.
Thanks.
There you go. Nice video to finish. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, my name is Martin Newman, and if you didn't, it's David Blaine. And you'll be listening to him in about an hour. Thank you very much.